Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees win the series at the Arizona Diamondbacks and complete their opening road trip with a 6-1 record. So the Yankees are just finding ways to win. This was not really a particularly pretty series. The Yankees lost the middle game handily, 7-0, and only had 3 hits, but they've found ways. And the first game, we win 5-2. The stars of that game were Luis Gil pitched really well, didn't go deep into the game, but it was very encouraging. And then Anthony Volpe was, 4 for 4 in that game. And, he was coming off the upset stomach the day before. And in game 3, it was an extra inning win. And that definitely got very interesting. But, in that game, what was good was a couple of players maybe breaking out. Aaron Judge has a pretty big game in game 3, hits a home run, has a really big hit in extra innings. Alex Verdugo hit what seemed at the time as maybe the game-winning home run. Didn't happen that way, but they would win the next inning anyway. And Carlos Rodon was okay. We'll talk about the rotation a little bit. That's the one concern for me right now with Cole out. I still do think the offense, even though on paper and the approach has been better. Like the offense, there's still going to be some issues there for sure, no matter how you slice it. But that aside, the bullpen they always find a way to make the bullpen work. And that's with guys out. But yeah, the rotation could be a bit of an issue, but they've been able to kind of make it happen so far. So look, they could have easily lost this series, and even the Astros series. They won all 4 of those. That could have easily been a split of a series. Like very, very. All it took was a couple of different plays here and there to go in a different direction, and you're looking, and it feels different. But there is something to be said for the ability to come back, the ability to find ways to win these games, and I would say the opponents were pretty tough. I think when it's all said and done, the Astros and Diamondbacks will be 2 of the better teams in baseball. I mean, obviously, the Astros history speaks for itself, and the Diamondbacks made the World Series last year. But just looking at it objectively for 2024, I think these are 2 good teams. And case in point, the Astros really should have swept the Blue Jays, and they even had a no-hitter. Blanco, their 5th starter, no-hit the Blue Jays, and both Astro wins were blowouts, and Josh Hader blew the save in the middle game. And I guess part of the reason why I bring that up is in part because the Yankees just played the Astros, and then also the Yankees' next series against the Blue Jays. The Yankees will come back home and start, their home season against Toronto, which will be an interesting series. And then they'll face the Marlins, the Yankees, that is. But let's just jump right into it. In terms of any roster changes, really just at the very back end of the pitching where Tanner Tully, who had been up briefly, maybe for a game or 2 at most, got sent down. And the cousin of Kirk Cousins, ironically, Jake Cousins, did appear in game 2. So he was kind of somewhat of the long man, I guess kind of the long man backup behind Luke Weaver, who did appear in the first game and who actually got the win. And this was against his former team, the Arizona Diamondbacks. So if you remember last year, it's kind of irrelevant to now, but the Yankees did face the Diamondbacks at the end of last year, what was a very rain-filled series at Yankee Stadium. The Yankee season was over, basically. And Arizona at that point lost the series to the Yankees, but was still able to kind of just barely scrape their way in. They only won 84 games, then they made it to the World Series. I would not have expected that when the Yankees beat them, thinking this is not a team that's anything special if they even make the playoffs, but they do, and they make it to the World Series. And you can see what Arizona brings to the table. A lot of speed, for sure. And kind of a team that likes to steal bases, likes to be aggressive, a couple of good pitchers at the top of the rotation, and what should be a pretty good bullpen. So they have the ingredients, but obviously it should be a tough NL West, but that's here nor there. Let's jump into it. So first game, Luis Gil for the Yankees is on the mound versus Ryan Nelson. This was definitely advantage Yankees. Ryan Nelson struggled in this game. He only goes 2 2/3, allows 5 hits, gives up 4 runs, 4 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. So whereas Luis Gil He threw. It's too bad. I wish he could have qualified for the win. He was 1 out away. I was hoping Boone maybe just let him have that one chance, but I understand he's coming off of a major injury, so you want to be safe with him. And I think I was impressed with Luis Hill back in 2021. Like, he can throw 100 miles an hour. He's got nasty stuff. For him, it's really a matter of just harnessing it and just limiting the walks when possible. Because I remember, like, he doesn't allow that many hits. Like, he's got that good of stuff. So he goes 4 2/3 inning, only allows 1 hit, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. And then so a lot of the high leverage Yankee relievers had pitched the day before and the day before that. So it was a combination of Luke Weaver, Nick Birdie, and Victor Gonzalez to finish it out. Things got a little bit interesting, which we'll talk about, but a relatively stress-free win for the Yanks. In going through the lineup, and that's what I'm going to try to do, and then kind of shoot through the play-by-play. But I guess from a game standpoint and a series standpoint, Gleyber Torres, a better series than the Astro one. Yeah. Was he amazing? No, but he got a couple hits here in this series, in this game, had a couple of hits in game 3. Juan Soto actually didn't do much at all. And in fact, he had an on-base percentage dating back to last year. I think it might have been 39 games. It ended in game 3. And it was too bad, too, because I'm jumping ahead. But like, he had a chance to walk. It was a 3-0 count, and they said he went around the third base ump did on the 3-0, which he might have. It was tough to say, and then he ended up grounding out. So that does end, and so Soto, who does get a couple of walks in game 1, he gets a hit in game 2. But, yeah, that's the good thing, too. Yankees win 2 out of 3, and Soto really didn't do a whole hell of a lot. Judge came alive in game 3. Rizzo gets a couple of hits in game 3. Rizzo's defense has been a little bit, not concerning, but it hasn't been great. And I'm wondering if the post-concussion situation, what happened with Tatis, is he a little bit skittish? Because Rizzo hasn't been great. A rough couple games for Giancarlo Stanton. Lots of strikeouts. He didn't play game 3. Verdugo comes on strong with a big homer in game 3, but hadn't done anything before that. Volpe with the really big game 1. I like what I've seen from Austin Wells. That's been good. And then Oswaldo Cabrera was fine. He wasn't really great, but like, he did have an RBI single in game 1. He gets one of the hits in game 2. So Oswaldo, obviously didn't do anything close to the Astros series, but he was okay. And so, yeah, just to kind of run through some players really quick. But yeah, first game, Yankees jump out to an early lead and would stick to that. In 2 runs in the second, 3 in the third, and that was it. Volpe would lead off double in the second. Then with 1 out, you get an Oswaldo Cabrera RBI single, and then an RBI double for Gleyber. So Gleyber getting going in that leadoff spot will be very important as long as he stays there. And, I'm fine with that. I would like to get Volpe up higher in the lineup, whether that be just jumping him up a couple spots or even moving him to leadoff. Like, I'm open to that idea. You don't have to. And I think we saw last year when they did move him to leadoff, there was some struggles that happened then. So it's more so in certain situations, I would just like to maybe get him to, I don't know, maybe 5th or 6th in the lineup at times, but we'll see what they do. Yankees take a 2-0 lead. Then in the third, it would be walks that would hurt Nelson and would help out the Yanks. So Rizzo would lead off walk, Alex Verdugo with a 1-out walk, and there's Anthony Volpe. An RBI single makes it 3-0 Yanks. And then a crazy play where Austin Wells hits a sac fly. Really just bad defense by the Diamondbacks. So it's a sac fly by Wells, which scores Verdugo. But Gurriel from left with not a good throw. It ends up going past the catcher. And then Ryan Nelson backing up. Volpe was aggressive, going to second, then to third, and trying to get get Volpe out of third. The ball goes into left field. So Volpe essentially scores from first base on a sac fly. And the Yankees take a 5-0 lead. But the Diamondback pitching would shut the Yankees down the rest of the way. But Luis Hill did a really good job. Third inning gets into some trouble. A single, a walk, a wild pitch, but only gives up 1 run. It was a sac fly by Ketel Marte. And jumping to the 5th, he gets a couple of outs, but the pitch count was high, so Luke Weaver comes in. And so Weaver ends the inning. Then let's go to the bottom of the 7th. This is where things get a little bit dicey. Leadoff triple by Gabriel Moreno off of Weaver. And then an error by Rizzo. And Moreno actually wasn't going from third. He ends up staying at third, but Rizzo is unable to field it cleanly. Luke Weaver also didn't, it was kind of Rizzo was somewhat no man's land. I kind of put more of the blame on Rizzo, but Weaver also could have made life a little bit easier by going to first. I think if Rizzo fields that cleanly, then I think there's a chance that they can get the out at first. Or maybe somehow they can get Moreno, but I guess he wasn't straying too far from third. But anyway, what could have been an out is now first and third, no out, and then it's a hit by pitch to Perdomo. So it's bases loaded, no out with the top of the order coming up. It's another Marte sac fly to make it 5-2, which was hit pretty well. And then Carroll pops out. And Corbin Carroll, really, Yankees are lucky. Carroll struggled this series. He actually didn't even play in game 2, but Carroll not at his peak level yet. And so with first and third, 2 out, 5-2 game, Gurriel lines out to Verdugo and left. So hard hit. Yankees have been a little bit lucky with some hard hit balls that have found the right spot for them. And so that makes it 5. So the score is now 5-2. You get a Volpe double in the 8th. Great game for him. Nick Birdie has been tremendous. Really like what I've seen from him. Birdie gets a 1-2-3 8th inning. And then Victor Gonzalez comes on. Now, keep in mind that – never mind. No, so he pitches games 1 and 2, Gonzalez. But, yeah, Victor Gonzalez, he gave up a ground rule double with 1 out, but he gets out of it. He was fine. I think I haven't been totally impressed with Gonzalez, but, it's a good job by the Yankees to kind of have their B and C relievers find a way to piece it together and get this win. Let's go to game 2. Now, this is where I'm going to start to discuss my concerns as far as the rotation. Nestor Cortes doesn't look very good, and I'll also give him some credit where, just like he did in the first game of the season, he gives up runs in the first, and it really could have been a lot worse. Diamondbacks with really just stupid base running, so he only lasts 3 in the first. But Nestor just not getting those swings and misses, which is a little bit like. These pitches look very easy to hit. He ends up going 5 innings, gives up 8 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, only 2 strikeouts. Not a very pretty line for Nestor. His ERA 6.30 after 2 starts. And I like Nestor Cortes. If you look back at old episodes, like I was always, 2021, 2022, like really like Nestor. But last year, you could kind of see, even beyond the injuries, that he wasn't quite all the way there, but still very capable, and I think still is, of putting up a really good, the stuff was still good. And I remember certain performances where he was really excellent. And then it was kind of one of those things where it was more so like a third time through the order type deal with Nestor, if I remember correctly. But now it's the first inning that's giving him a lot of problems. Either way, I think with Cortes, I think you have to be a little bit concerned that the old Nestor certainly isn't there right now, and you hope that he can kind of find that form. But yeah, he hasn't looked good. I think that's forgetting about what the stat line reads and everything, that I'm not overly impressed with what I've seen. Then again, just 2 starts in, and maybe he just needs to build up a little bit more to kind of get back to the Nestor we've seen previously. So in this one, it would be Jose Trevino. And I think, that's a little bit of a duo. We've seen, of course, a really good one dating back to 2022. So more times than not, you might see Trevino catch Cortes. But, other than that, the lineup was basically the same, just a couple of tweaks here and there as far as the order was concerned. But Zach Gallen was really good. He only allows 3 hits, and that Yankees would only get 3 hits on the night. So, they get shut out. And this was, almost the Yankee offense had not really, even though they were scoring runs and they were making the most of it, they hadn't really been looking so good. And so I'm not totally shocked by this. But let's talk about game 2. Yankees actually it sucks. There was a couple of walks in the first inning, Glaber and Judge, but in between that was a Soto double play. Bottom of the first, leadoff double Ketel Marte, RBI single Blaze Alexander. Yes, his name is Blaze. And that makes it 1-0 Diamondbacks. Alexander still second with 1 out. You get a Christian Walker single to make it first and third. And then Eugenio Suarez with an RBI single. Gabby Moreno with an RBI single. Makes it 3-0. And it seems like it could even be worse. So at first and third, 1 out, Barossa tries to do kind of a safety squeeze bunt play. I'm not really sure in that situation why they would do that, knowing that they had Nestor on the ropes, but they do. And what happens is Rizzo, it ends up being a situation where the Yankees get a double play out of it. Rizzo to Trevino to Oswaldo gets the runner out at third. Then heady awareness by Oswaldo to then throw to Cortez at first, and bad base running there by Barossa. So not a great bunt to begin with, and then he gets out at first. So what could have kind of been a really disastrous first only ends up in it being 3-0 Diamondbacks. In the second inning, Trevino strikes out with 2 on 2 out. Trevino, and it's early, he feels like an automatic out, and this was someone that really I loved in 2022, the first like 3 quarters of the season. Then he started to tail off towards the end, and last year we found out that he was hurt. But look, he's a great defensive catcher, and so if he's not going to hit, it's not the end of the world, but we have seen him been able to do it, and he's typically a contact guy, but he strikes out there. Then, Nestor settles in a bit let's go to, I guess, Cortez able to get through 5. Let's put it that way. Yankees really weren't able to get a whole lot going. Trevino with a double play in the 5th after an Oswaldo walk wasn't great. But, yeah, Nestor is able to at least grit his way through 5 innings and kind of keep the Yankees in the game. In the 6th, Victor Gonzalez would come on and pitch a scoreless 6th inning. Then Scott McGuff relieves Gallen in the 7th, gets a couple of strikeouts, including Stanton and Volpe. Then at the bottom of the 7th, Victor Gonzalez runs into some trouble. Ketel Marte singles, but then there's also a throwing error by Oswaldo, and he goes to third on the play. So not a great way to start that off. We've seen some throwing issues a little bit, whether it be Oswaldo or Volpe in these games here and there. They've been good at getting to the ball, but the throws have been a little bit off the mark. Blaze Alexander walks, and so Victor Gonzalez kind of a somewhat good, somewhat bad outing, depending on how you look at it. And Jake Cousins comes on. Cousins actually looked okay, but made one really bad mistake. He gets Gurriel to pop out, but then Christian Walker hits a 3-run bomb to break the game open and give the D-backs a 6-0 lead. In the 8th, he would give up another run. There was a pass ball by Austin Wells, as well as a pitch by Jake Cousins within that. So he probably deserved a better fate because Ketel Marte struck out, but reached because of a pass ball by Wells. So Austin Wells looked like defensively, there's probably going to be some struggles. I think that, he's done a good enough job since coming up last year, but, Trevino is certainly the better defensive catcher. But Wells is working on it, and I do like what I've seen at the plate from Austin. So it's 7-0 D-backs, and they would win by that score. Yankees lose pretty easily in Game 2. So now we got the rubber match in Game 3. And it would be a matchup. And it's actually, I'm almost certain it was a rematch of last year in that rain-filled series at the stadium. You know what? Actually, that's not true. I don't think that it was a matchup, but at the very least, I know that both these pitchers pitched in that series. And it was Rodon and Merrill Kelly. So Rodon has faced the Diamondbacks a lot, dating back to his time with the San Francisco Giants, and I don't think the results are all that good. I don't think that he had pitched very well against Arizona, even though his numbers with San Francisco in general, Rodon, were excellent, leading to him getting the 6-year contract with the Yankees. But Rodon, my expectations are not high with him, so I'll take what it was. It ends up being 5 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 3 strikeouts. It allows 2 solo homers. So he's been okay. But yeah, for me, I'm not so I don't know. I'm not so high on Rodon, and we'll see. It's been 2 starts. It's been okay. Like the earned run average is 2.79, and I'll take that, of course, all day long. But I don't know. Like it could be worse. That's kind of how I see it, but it's a conversation for another day as far as whether Rodon will live up to the 6-year contract. Early returns aren't great, but at the same time, like compared to last season, these 2 starts were a lot better. Only 3 strikeouts is tough, but it is what it is. So in this one, This was definitely the craziest game of the bunch as far as what ends up happening at the end. So the Diamondbacks would take the early lead. Keep in mind, Stanton was out, as I would have expected him to be. Stanton didn't play. Judge moves from center to DH, and it gets Trent Grisham into the lineup into center field. Grisham's role on this team isn't going to be as much as maybe I thought it would, and I don't mind that. He's a good defensive center fielder, not great offensively, and as long as the Yankees are healthy, you're probably not going to see too much of Trent Grisham, although he obviously is going to get more time than, let's say, a Jahmai Jones. Like, that's obvious. And even Birdie in some ways. Birdie did pinch hit for Grisham, but they're going to try to get him in there, but not so frequently, and I'm fine with that. So, Rodon gets into some early trouble, but is able to escape in the first inning. In the second, though, Blaze Alexander hits his I think it's his first major league homer. Alexander homers in that second inning to give the Diamondbacks 1-0 lead. In the fourth, though, Yankees do respond. It's a leadoff single for Glaber. Then the Soto at bat I talked about earlier, where he almost walked, but then grounds out into a force. And then Aaron Judge goes opposite field for his first homer of the year. Right center field, Judge really needed it. He only had 3 hits through 6 games. So really nice. And Judge didn't stop there, but it was a good game for him. He got on base 3 times and did some damage as well. So that gave the Yankees a 2-1 lead. And let's go to the fifth. So it ends up being first and second, 1 out, and Glaber has a 3-0 count. What ends up happening is he grounds into a double play. So that hurt, right? Because if he somehow walks and gets on, then it's basically 1 out for Soto. And so that was a quick turnaround. Merrill Kelly is able to get out of that. And then in the fifth, with 2 strikes, 2 outs, Ketel Marte homers off of Rodon. So that was a little frustrating where you almost get it through 5, but the Diamondbacks tie it up at 2. Then in the sixth, Rodon gives up a 1-out double to Suarez, and then Alexander walks, and then Ian Hamilton comes on. And Ian Hamilton, for my money, is the best pitcher in the Yankee pen. He ends up going 2 2/3, no hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. He has been really good. He is a very, very valuable and important piece of this bullpen. Like the fact that he gave you 8 outs and only doing it with 27 pitches. So the thing with that is I don't know whether he'll necessarily be available for that home opener versus the Blue Jays. I'm skeptical of that. I almost feel like he won't be, but did a great job in this game to give the Yankees a chance and keep the game tied at 2. So we go to the 9th. Jonathan Loaisiga comes in for the Yanks at that point, and he does a nice job with a 1-2-3 inning. So Loaisiga, give him credit as well. So now we go to extras, and here's where things get interesting. Kevin Ginkel comes on for the Diamondbacks. He's basically the de facto closer for the Diamondbacks with Paul Sewald out with injury. And with a runner on second, Alex Verdugo, who had not done a whole lot offensively to this point, hits a big 2-run homer. And boy, was he walking slow around the bases. Like, he is someone that if you're going against him, he's annoying. I mean, look, I remember him with the Red Sox. He's not a very likable guy, and the Yankees kind of have some of those guys. Look, I mean, Verdugo, Stroman. I could see Soto rubbing people the wrong way, but hey, they need a little bit of that attitude to this team. So, but Verdugo with a really big 2-run homer, like his big first moment as a Yank offensively. So that gives Yankees a 4-2 lead, and Clay Holmes comes on. And Clay Holmes did a really good job in the 10th, but the Diamondbacks end up tying it up. And what happens is Jock Peterson ground out. The runner moves over to third. Fine. And here's where the bad thing happens. Perdomo hits a ground ball to Volpe. So the run's going to score, right? No problem. That makes it 4-3. However, they don't get the out at first. Not a great throw by Volpe. And then Rizzo can't hold on to it. As Rizzo, the ball comes out of his glove as it hits like the helmet of Perdomo. Perdomo actually got hurt on the play and left the game. Jake McCarthy would pinch run for him. But yeah, not a good throw by Volpe, and I still wish that Rizzo could have hung on to it. I guess more blame goes to Volpe, but it's a bit of both, and that changes the whole complexion because then Clay Holmes throws a wild pitch. And so maybe, blame can go to Holmes and to Wells there, but that is part of Clay Holmes' game. Like, he does kind of lose it at points. But, so it's a run on third, 1 out. Ketel Marte grounds out. So, okay, no run scores there. But then Corbin Carroll hits a soft ground ball to the infield. Volpe does as best as he can, but Carroll has so much speed and beats it out. So Clay Holmes deserves really no blame. He did the job. Diamondbacks tied up really based on that error from Volpe. That was the key play. So it ties it at 4. We go to the 11th inning. and Scott McGough comes on for Ginkel, and Birdie's the runner on second at this point. He had pinch hit for Grisham earlier. Gleyber Torres with a key single. Opposite field single for Gleyber. Good job by him. And then it's a balk. With Soto up, it's a balk by McGough. And so the Yankees take a 5-4 lead. Now there's a runner on second. Soto lines out sharply. So Soto actually had an extra life to extend his on-base streak. Doesn't do it there. But then Aaron Judge with a really big, and these extra innings, to get that 2-run lead is very, very important. Judge with an RBI double to give the Yanks a 6-4 lead. Clay Holmes starts the 11th, and I wasn't sure what they were going to do because Nick Birdie was warming up. I wasn't sure if they were going to go there. But Holmes in the 11th, he does hit Christian Walker, and that's the thing. Holmes, we've seen the hit by pitches. That's the scary thing with him. It's almost Chapman-like where he could lose it at any moment. But then he does get Suarez to strike out, which is really important. So now the lefty, Caleb Ferguson, comes on. First and second, 1 out, 6-4 game. He gets Jace Peterson to strike out. But the Diamondbacks would not die as Barossa gets an RBI single with 2 strikes to make it 6-5. And now here's what happens. Gabriel Moreno is coming up. But the on-deck spot, the Diamondbacks lost their DH. And they had no hitters left on the bench. So it was going to have to be a pitcher that would hit. And so Aaron Boone walks Moreno, which I had no problem with. I thought maybe the game plan would be, all right, let's pitch carefully. They just straight walk him, which I'm okay with that. I would rather straight walk him than go after him. But it makes it risky. And with the bases loaded, 2 out, 6-5 games, Scott McGough, it's his first major league at bat. And that makes sense because there's no more pitcher spot anymore in the National League. It's just DH. So these are rare situations. But Caleb Ferguson is able to strike out McGough looking. Now, it was a 1-2 pitch. It was a ball. It was outside. It should not have been called a strike. So Ferguson catches a break. I'd like to think even if it was called a ball, he'd eventually get him out. But we'll never know. But the Yankees win at 6-5. They win the series at Arizona. And so their record improves to 6-1. And now they come home, and the fans should be pretty pumped up. Knowing they're 6-1, knowing there's Juan Soto, and hey, Marcus Stroman will make his Yankee Stadium Yankee debut against his former Blue Jay squad. So that's going to be pretty fun. And it'll be Kikuchi, the lefty, on the mound for the Blue Jays. Now, Kikuchi, the Yankees, used to have success against him. I don't think they did as much last year. He had a rough first start a little bit. I believe that one was against the Tampa Rays. So it'll be Kikuchi versus Stroman. Game 2 likely to be Gausman versus Schmidt. And Gausman's coming off of a really good outing against Tampa. He is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And then Game 3 will probably, for the Blue Jays, be Bowden Francis, who got lit up against the Astros against Luis Heel. So 3 right-handed starters for the Yankees against Toronto, which is a good thing because Toronto, their best hitters are basically all right-handed. So that probably works well as opposed to if they had Nestor Cortez or Carlos Rodon. But this should be an interesting series. The Blue Jays are 3-4. When it's all said and done, I'm sure Toronto will very much be in that AL East race. It's a talented roster. And, just exciting to see, Yankee Stadium will be in a pretty good mood for this weekend set against the Blue Jays. Weather should be probably pretty cold, I would think. But I don't think there's any – I think they should be able to get these games in. I don't believe there's rain in the forecast for this series. But Yankees, they complete the road trip. Really nice job. They take the series barely by winning the rubber game in extra innings versus the Diamondbacks. And so they complete the opening road trip of the season with a 6-1 record.